Curse of Dreadbear has been one of FNAF's greatest mysteries since it came out in 2019, with very little explanation as to what it was trying to tell us. Was it something about Crying Child, David, Ultimate Custom Night, or just a mixture of all of these in one? Well, today, I answer that question with help from some of my fellow theorists to try and answer this half a decade long question, alongside revisiting my latest 14 theory video that helps us piece together what this DLC is trying to tell us and what it means for the future of Five Nights at Freddy's. My name is Narrow Raven, and if you enjoy this video, please hit that subscribe button, as we have a goal of 14,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the theory. After my last video, we concluded that the vengeful spirit was none other than the Crying Child. As a result of the sheer amount of references to Crying Child and his life before and after death, to help conclude the importance of Golden Freddy, Dreadbear, the spirits within the mindscape of UCN, and so much more. Though, there's something at the end of the video I said that I plan on proving today. I feel this helps piece together a lot of things that help coincide with previous and future FNAF entries, alongside the books and anything else that may come forward. So, what are these future stories? Well, today we'll be visiting both Curse of Dreadbear and Security Breach to help prove that Crying Child being the vengeful spirit holds up even to modern FNAF standard. This will include an absolute deep dive into the story, characters, relationships, and more of these two games. So let's get straight into it. Curse of Dreadbear has a lot of weird and cool Easter eggs that have honestly gone unanswered ever since the DLC came out. So let's dive deep into these Easter eggs, shall we? Alright, so we have to talk about the main hub Easter eggs that just randomly occur or that you can cause to happen on purpose. So first is Dreadbear just rising from the lake and just walking over into the barn. Now this Easter egg has been speculated over for a long time. So what is this mysterious lake meant to tell us? Well, detail about this lake not many people know is that it is a red lake, not a normal water lake that makes the sky blue. So why is this color important? Well, in FNAF World, the game that takes place in Crying Child's head, due to the map looking like a brain and it has the one dead spot being the frontal lobe area, in this game you can come across something called Old Man Consequences, who we established in some sort of mental being, as he only appears when something mental is happening, such as FNAF World, Ultimate Custom Night, and Princess Quest. Though in FNAF World, you can choose to go to the top side of the lake and jump in, thus giving you a secret cutscene that honestly to this day I have no clue what it is. Though in UCN, Old Man Consequences appears yet again, where you can do the exact same thing. Now, in the last video we brought up how FNAF World is very connected to UCN, via the Easter eggs such as Tangle appearing on the desk alongside other characters, and OMC appearing. So to quickly derail for a quick second, Toy Chica has this really weird voice line.
You won't get tired of dying, will you?
So Toy Chica is referencing a line she says in FNAF World that, again, only CC and Yellow Eyes and Charlie should know about. Anyways, back to our normal programming. This red lake appearing again, with Dreadbear walking out of it, really screams to me that this is a recreation of those two scenes from FNAF World and UCN. The final Easter egg here is the fact that you are by the FNAF 4 house, with an Easter egg being that the sky literally turning to red, making it the FNAF 4 menu, with our conclusion that both FNAF World and UCN is being caused by Crying Child, and this is literally being the FNAF 4 menu screen that should start our path into Dreadbear and Crying Child being one and the same, if not very close to one another. Though before we get into any of the levels, we also have to talk about the death screen if you end up dying. In this area, there's a few things to note. First, you have Grim Foxy behind you just waiting for you to leave. Now, Grim Foxy is a very interesting type of character within these games, even in Princess Quest. At first, in Curse of Dreadbear, I feel Grim Foxy is a literal representation of the FFPS fire. Now, why do I think this is the case? Well, besides multiple of the posters from FFPS and UCN appearing in the game, such as in the victory screen for example, well, Grim Foxy is a foxy on fire in a maze, which our only case of a maze being lit on fire with a foxy being set on fire is FFPS, the foxy here being Michael. Now, why is this interesting to me? Well, fellow theorist Fazbear Entertainment Corporation brought to me that if this is a representation of UCN, Michael being represented by Grim Foxy is him still being alive, trying to claw into the realm of the dead, the graveyard that we are in. Though, let's cut back to the Death Hub. So next up is the giant Dreadbear reaching towards you and guarding a set of gravestones, one of which is in the center and purple. Now let's go over how many there are here. There's a set of 8 gravestones surrounding the 9th purple gravestone. Now this would be a major issue as we can for sure get 1 to 7 with the MCI, Charlie, and Elizabeth, with Dreadbear going to Crying Child. But who's mystery number 8? Well, with the amount of deaths caused by William in the franchise, such as Ralph, Michael in Sister Location, and so many more, it's hard to say who it is. Though if I had to take a guess, it'd be David Murray's gravestone. Now, why do I say this is the case? Well, we wouldn't get our answer until later on in FNAF Security Breach of all games. Now, I know this is straying from our Crying Child and Dreadbear path, but just follow with me here. In FNAF Security Breach's dock ending, Gregory and Glamrock Freddy steal a Fazbear Entertainment van and speed down a straight road and smacks into a mapbot that just strays out into the center of the road. Now, this could for sure be a coincidence, but something I thought I'd bring up, but in the Tales books, this is very close to what happens to David in which he gets hit by a van going at a high speed, though this doesn't prove William killed him, though it does provide evidence that a Fazbear van did, which if you know of or believe God David, this helps further connect Gregory to David as well as to Crying Child. So now we get to the 9th grave, which is really interesting. We know this grave is glitch traps not just from the fact of the glitchiness of it, but from the ultimate guide itself quite literally tells that it has a similar texture as the secret tapes and glitch trap plush from Help Wanted. And the monitor will sometimes say, report glitches before they spread, or purging system. So why is this so interesting? Well, the reason why I find this to be interesting is because Glitch Trap is essentially an AI mimicking William Afton, which we have another digital being, Dreadbear, guarding the grave of Glitch Trap. So where am I going with this? Well, if these are AI representations of the Afton family, I find it interesting that in the recent video from Steel Wool titled Spooky Halloween Ambience, Dreadbear rises from the purple gravestone on screen, implying Dreadbear has some connection to the Afton family, the family member being Crying Child. But just like Glitch Trap, not literally. Now, let's rewind to that Dreadbear Easter egg with him rising from the gravestone. This is very reminiscent of the trailer for this DLC. It takes place on a hill or mound at night while it's raining. I believe this would be the mound in Midnight Motorist, meaning that if the theory of Crying Child and Dreadbear are closely related, the mound would be none other than Crying Child's unmarked grave. Now we can finally get into the levels of this DLC. First, I need to bring up Corn Maze yet again. Now, if this isn't a clear connection between the Vengeful Spirit and Dreadbear, I don't know what is. In Corn Maze, you can occasionally hear Fredbear speaking, which is a really odd choice here as Fredbear is nowhere in this game besides none other than Dreadbear, who we've already established has to have a close relationship to Crying Child, aka our Vengeful Spirit, which in this minigame, you have to avoid Grim Foxy and collect 1 to 4 keys to escape. However, you can collect a secret 5th key to get into the cellar. Now, 5 keys is very interesting, as the final 5th one is yet again a glitchy purple key that we see in later interactions of Princess Quest, which is very much connected to Glitch Trap, which later leads us to the Vanny Mask. Though, the reason why I find this to be interesting as you have a Dreadbear reference with the Fredbear voice lines, Grim Foxy are now AI representation of Michael Afton, and the purple glitchy key being Glitch Trap are now AI representation of William Afton, all in a maze with a burning Foxy animatronic, with the connection to Ultimate Custom Night with all the cardboard cutouts having characters such as RWQ, Mangle, Ennard, Phantom Freddy, and so many more appearing, which the only time we see these characters in the same area is in UCN, with the item in the cellar being buried beneath the ground is Vanessa's mask. Call me crazy, but I think with our patterns of this minigame being the Afton family in a maze, Vanny's mask being here could imply that Vanessa is an Afton in some way, especially considering both the Vanessa and Gregory tapes are in Michael's room in Security Breach. There is some evidence for that theory. Though to not complicate this video too much, I'll save that one for another day. Next is Trick or Treat. Now this one is very, very simple to explain. You're presumably a kid at the Afton family home. Now, why do I say this is the Afton family home? Well, the reason why is because you're at a manor, on a hill, with animatronics from FNAF 2 in it. And we know this is past the Murray family as there's 3 graves outside of the manor. As well as the ultimate guide, again, it tells that there are FNAF 4 references in this minigame. Quote, "The masks in Trick or Treat look to be the real versions of the masks worn by the bullies in the FNAF 4 Night End minigames. We can also say that the FNAF 4 house is on a hill for certain, and with the hallway crawl taking place in FNAF 4, and with the FNAF 4 bedroom being in the Murray family home, which heavily implies that after Secret of the Mimic, the Murray home was turned into the Afton family home. This minigame is a screaming FNAF 4 reference to the bullies and their masks. However, what really ties together is what's inside and on the front door. On the front door, you have a Foxy on the door holding the door knocker, as well as the Afton family crest plastered above it on the center of the door. Now, if you're wondering why this is the Afton family crest, if you go into the plush trap level in Help Wanted, you can see this exact same crest everywhere on the walls, as well as in other FNAF 4 related minigames and Help Wanted. As well as inside the home, you quite literally have a chair in front of a TV that's on, a very specific sign to either the ending of FNAF Sister Locations Nights or Midnight Motorist, helping us conclude that this is for sure the Afton family home. Now let's move over to build a Mangle. This one is very interesting as you are putting together an amalgamation from spare parts while the little Freddles try to delay you by getting in your face. Though, why is this interesting to me? Well, the last thing said to Crying Child is that infamous "I will put you back together" line. And this is essentially putting something back together using multiple parts from different things, but the result definitely isn't what you expected. Like, you tell me this thing is Mangle. So, this would imply that Crying Child is back, but not how William expected, right? Honestly, it's hard to determine what William expected when CC was brought back into 1. But if it's via animatronic possession of the very thing that killed Crying Child, then that's the explanation. Though we conclude that this is putting someone back together through Dreadbear, as again in the ultimate guide, it does touch up on this and even hints us purposefully into the direction of this being the case. Certain fans have drawn a connection between FNAF 4's "I will put you back together" and the theming around Dreadbear. The idea of taking something inanimate, something dead, and giving it new life through an animatronic rang more than a few bells for theorists. Food for thought, in an earlier patch of the game, it wasn't Glitchtrap on the hill with the FNAF 4 house, it was Dreadbear. This would imply that if Dreadbear was by the FNAF 4 house originally, then later changed to Glitchtrap, Dreadbear would have been a connection to the FNAF 4 house, and who better than Crying Child. Now lastly is the Dreadbear level. In this minigame there's a few things to know. First, we are in the house on the hill of Trick or Treat, the same house that Edwin once resided in as shown to us in Secret of the Mimic, with a manor on a hill with a pathway leading over to somewhere. In this, Hand Unit greets us and tells us what we have to do. One of those things being to program the brain using a frequency, which in Secret of the Mimic, we know that the key to finding a ghost is a frequency, the frequency of 4625, the ghost radio. However, Dreadbear is unstable while we are doing this process of putting him together and implementing his brain into his cranium. Though the interesting thing is that we have to essentially take a gray, dead brain, add color to it, change its size, and implement a frequency into it to bring him to life. This is quite literally taking a dead brain and giving the brain life, as said in the minigame. However, it's a fact that it's a brain being used. As with Fiona, it was just a frequency and maybe teaching M1 how Fiona was, and the same for M2, except both of those are up for debate at the moment, though I don't see a brain in either of the mimics at all. So this brain that's being put into Dreadbear, aka Spooky Fredbear, would have to be Crying Child's brain. In this minigame, we are quite literally playing as William, putting CC back together using experiments that he knows Edwin did with the mimics. However, William is taking it a step further. So he's putting the frequency into the brain directly from Crying Child's cranium. Luckily, it did work. However, William would later learn of what the frequency was actually using. Remnant that would bind soul to metal. And thus this is how we get Molten Freddy, the FNAF 1 animatronics, the Fun Times, and so many more possessed animatronics in the series. Lastly, I want to bring up the barn in Curse of Dreadbear, the same one Dreadbear walks into in the lobby of the DLC. In the barn, it's set up for a birthday party. However, there's two things I want to bring up. First is the birthday cake you can see, as when you get closer to it, you can count 7 candles on it. Now, with Dreadbear walking into here, as well as both David and Gregory not having something important happen on their 7th birthday, the evidence of Dreadbear walking into the barn and this birthday cake belonging to a 7-year-old child, which is around the age the crying child should be at the time of the bite of 83, a year that is pointing to us in the lobby, I feel we can connect this to say crying child was 7 years old at the time of the bite, literally to the day of the bite. What helps me connect this even more is if you get 3 clown posters, who I believe to be Elizabeth via Circus Baby, William via Clown Springtrap, and Michael due to having entered inside of him at one point and hit all the posters with the darts, a text appears in front of you saying, "It's me." Now, we know due to the week before that anyone can say this in the franchise. However, if it's just us and one other character in this barn, yet again, who would it be? None other than Crying Child, something that as spirits we associated with Golden Freddy for a long time before the week before came out. Though another interesting thing to point out, though I don't personally believe that it holds up that well, but still worth pointing out, is that a while ago when Steel Wool was teasing FNAF Ruin, they were asking us to guess a sketch on multiple items. These items were the Fairchild Channel F, Figaro Foe, and Crying Child from FNAF 4. Now, I want to hold off on the Fairchild Channel F as that's the most interesting one here. So we have Figaro Foe, an Australian animation series about a kid named Figaro, who has to overcome a phobia in each episode. Now, there's 26 of these episodes, which when we connect it to Crying Child, this is something that he attempts to do in one of the FNAF 4 minigames, but fails, alongside when he's locked inside of the backstage area. However, when we get to the Fairchild Channel F, it brings an interesting point to Crying Child's age at the time of death. The Fairchild Channel F was a gaming console that released in November of 1976, and the company Fairchild sold the rights to the console in 1979, and was discontinued in 1983, given a 7-year age gap for this device that they are trying to connect to Crying Child in these 3 posts. So depending on whether or not you believe this is solid evidence or not, this can help conclude to us that Crying Child was born in November of 1976 and died on his birthday in November of 1983 on his 7th birthday. It also helps connect Crying Child to David more so, as this also connects the year of 1979, a prominent year in Secret of the Mimic and for the Fairchild console. So what does this all mean? Well, what it means is that it's connecting Fredbear to Dreadbear to Crying Child, in which we get to know more about William and Edwin's relationship post-MCM takeover, with William desperately trying to bring back his deceased son, however, not out of care, but out of greed to be immortal. William doesn't quite understand how this works, so he just takes Crying Child's brain and puts the frequency of 4625 into Crying Child's brain, adds some life and electricity to jumpstart it, and puts it in Fredbear, who later becomes Golden Freddy. William's first experiment with finding the spark of life, then representing the consequences of that action, with Crying Child coming back in UCN to torment William for putting him back together. Okay, before you all go, please stick around for a little bit because there's some really important things that I want you all to know. So first thing I want to mention is that One More Night of DVD, a charity event supporting Movember, which is men's mental health, is happening on November 13th, 14th, and 15th, hosted by fellow creator Jerikai Games and co-hosted by me. It will be all on Jerikai's channel, and while there's going to be a bunch of creators there, we're going to have fun just playing DVD through a tournament, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. And maybe there might be a little bit of a kind of surprise with me appearing in a certain way, but we shall see. Otherwise, all I got left to really announce is that I have a bunch of upcoming streams. Whenever this video comes out, it may have already happened, this one, but I have one with Fazbear Entertainment, which if you don't know, he made Fred Barn, and we're talking about that. I have one with Terminal Error yet again. He has a really juicy theory, but depending on when this video comes out, I'm not going to mention what it is. I have one with the creator of The Obsessive Shadow, which I'm really excited for. He's really cool, so make sure you're there for that. I'm also going to be playing The Obsessive Shadow before that. Otherwise, I'm going to get back to playing Scott's old games and working on that huge series retrospective. And yeah, that's all I have for today. So as always, if you enjoyed, please do hit that like and subscribe button, as every single bit helps. While you're at it, comment down below really anything in the whole wide world. Just remember to keep it kind, calm, respectful, and that this is just a theory. Share this video with your friends and families. Every single bit helps. But without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great day, stay safe, and peace out.